How would it feel if you were mortgage free way earlier than expected? Imagine no monthly payment to a bank that is making massive amounts of interest off of you, all the while removing one of the most burdensome monthly expenses you have. Owning a home is the American dream. Then paying off that home is probably one of the most liberating feelings you will ever feel. Probably only second to a clear bill of health from an STD. For many people, it's a lifelong goal, and rightfully so. What sucks is that a large portion of your mortgage payment is nothing but freaking interest that you are paying to the bank for the privilege of taking out that money. On $1 million loan, because that's how we roll here in San Diego, at 7% interest over 30 years, you're gonna be paying the bank about $1,395,000 in interest on that loan. That's on top of your mortgage loan, and that's assuming that you never take out a home equity line of credit or refinance your loan along the way. If you did, you'll be paying way more to the bank than that. By paying off your mortgage early, you could save hundreds of thousands of dollars from leaving your bank account to go to the bank's pockets, and you'll be eliminating one of the largest monthly revolving bills you have. For many people, having a mortgage payment determines when they get to retire. Now, let's get into the good stuff already. Today, I'm gonna teach you 7 strategies to pay off your mortgage 5, 10, or even 15 years early. If you are already getting pumped to do all this, go ahead real quick, hit the thumbs up button, and while you're down there, click the subscribe so you can stay in the loop of all the content I post about the San Diego real estate market. Now, in case you don't know me, I'm Karl, your San Diego realtor. If you're thinking of selling or buying, check out the link in the description below to set up a time for us to talk, or you're welcome to call me directly. If you're not interested in that at all, and you only want to take advantage of the free content I post on here, then by all means, take all you'd like. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the good stuff. Simple strategy number 1, bi-weekly payments. You may have heard of the strategy already, but you may not fully understand how it works or the impact it can have on your mortgage. I honestly don't see why everyone isn't doing this. Let's break it down. Typically, you make a mortgage payment once a month, and that works out to 12 mortgage payments a year. Bi-weekly is essentially making a half payment towards your mortgage every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, not twice a month. That's a big difference there. With 52 weeks a year, that comes out to 26 half payments or 13 full payments. So 1 extra payment a year. In the end, you're only making 1 extra mortgage payment every year, but because you're paying it every other week, you're not really seeing a big difference in your monthly expenses. The big question you probably have on your mind right now is how big of a difference can 1 extra payment a year actually make? I then ask you, how big would you consider almost $350,000? With $1 million loan at 7% interest for 30 years, you will pay off your mortgage 6.5 years early and save over $350,000 in interest simply by making bi-weekly payments instead of a monthly payment. What would it feel like if your mortgage was paid off 6.5 years early and you hadn't given away $350,000 to someone else? If you want to see exactly how big of a difference bi-weekly payments make on your mortgage, follow the link in the description below to Dave Ramsey's online calculator to figure this out. You don't have to agree with Dave Ramsey on everything that he teaches, but his early mortgage payment calculator on his website is really legit. There is another way to structure this in the event that your lender doesn't allow you to make bi-weekly payments. This is so stupid. Believe it or not, many lenders don't allow you to make bi-weekly payments. This is not advantageous to the banks, so I'm not surprised, but nevertheless, it sucks. Never fear, there is a solution. First, you keep your monthly payment and then add extra payments to the principal every month. This allows you to keep the benefit of the bi-weekly payment strategy. Here's how it works. You take 1 month's mortgage payment and divide that amount by 12, and then you just add that amount to each of your 12 monthly mortgage payments. Personally, I find this a little bit easier to track in my head rather than making the bi-weekly payments. In our $1 million example, your monthly payments would be about $6,653 a month for principal and interest only. If you divide that by 12 months, that works out to about $550 a month. So by adding $550 a month to every one of your mortgage payments, That'd be the equivalent of making one extra mortgage payment a year. For clarity, when you purchase your home, your monthly payment will be structured in a format known as PITI. That stands for principal, interest, taxes, insurance. There are a few exceptions to this, but we're not going over that here. What you need to take away from this is that your principal and interest portion of your monthly bill is what you want to focus on. The $6,653 referenced in the example is the principal and interest only. That does not include taxes or insurance because they have nothing to do with your loan balance or the interest paid on your loan. But I got a feeling you're here to figure out a way to make a little bit more of an impact. So watch this. Instead of adding an additional $555 a month to every mortgage payment, just round that up to $600. It's only $45 more. That would save you over $361,000 interest over the lifetime of the loan and pay off your mortgage a couple months earlier than the bi-weekly method. If you really want to be aggressive and metaphorically give a big middle finger to the banks, you could make the equivalent of one extra mortgage payment every quarter instead of once a year. In our $1 million loan scenario, you would save over $760,000 in interest over the lifetime of the loan and pay your mortgage off in almost half the time. What's great about this strategy is that it's 100% optional. You can turn these extra mortgage payments on and off whenever you choose. Now, if you compare this method to getting a 15-year mortgage instead of a 30-year mortgage, with the 15-year mortgage, you are stuck paying those higher mortgage payments. Now say, knock on wood, you get laid off from your job for a hot second. You can elect to not make that extra payment every quarter until you get back on your feet. Simple as that. But with a 15-year mortgage, nope. That 15-year mortgage payment is due every month, period. Strategy number 3. This may seem like common sense, but you know common sense isn't so common after all. Simply put, don't take out a large mortgage to begin with. Because the bank says you can qualify for $1 million loan doesn't mean that you should get $1 million loan. If your goal is to truly pay off your mortgage and be debt free, you have to ask yourself, what's the higher priority? Is it having a larger home, having a larger yard with a pool, or having extra garages? For some people, it's not. For others, having those extras is a higher priority than being debt-free. For them, quality of life in the moment takes a higher priority than down the road. And to be clear, there is no right or wrong to this, only different ways of going about it. There are a lot of different ways to go about taking out a lower mortgage. You can go from wanting to own a detached home to living in a townhome or a condo, both of which will be significantly lower in cost. You can move to another area that may give you a longer commute into work, but has more affordable housing. If you're a remote worker, you can move to another state that has lower property or sales tax, and then take that savings and put it towards the principal of your mortgage. One of my childhood friends, and to this day best friend Chad, lives in Salt Lake City, Utah. Him and his wife want to move back to San Diego so bad, but the cost of living here is too high, and being debt-free is the top of their priority list for them and their family. If paying off your mortgage and living debt-free is really at the top of your priority list, then maybe you should take a look at a few of these options. Now, strategy number 4 is to make a one-time payment to your principal. And to be frank, this will really only be available to a small number of individuals. Imagine you come into some significant money. Maybe it's an inheritance or a bonus at work. You can take that money and apply it straight to the principal of your mortgage. With that $1 million loan example and a $50,000 payment towards the principal at the beginning of the loan, that would save you almost $300,000 in interest over the lifetime of the loan and pay off your loan almost 4.5 years early. Crazy, right? $50,000 for $300,000? Clearly, you're seeing the impact that additional payments to your principal can have. Strategy number 5 is pretty simple in theory. That's to increase your income. With the overwhelming majority of companies, you're most likely gonna get a raise every year and a promotion occasionally. So with strategy number 5, every time you get a raise, keep your living expenses exactly the same and put the additional income towards the principal on your mortgage. I feel like this is very counterculture at the moment. My cousin and his wife were looking for a new place to buy, and during the process, my cousin got a new job and a very significant pay increase. Technically, he could qualify for way more after the promotion, and I feel like this is what many people do. But if you want to get ahead financially, you have to learn to spend less. If everyone else is maxing out their monthly income on a house, how likely are they able to put extra away into retirement or to apply to their mortgage. Another way to really further this strategy is to use your property to earn you more income. With websites like Airbnb, you can rent out a single room or even an entire floor of your home for a few days or a few weeks at a time. People all over San Diego are building ADUs on their property to increase the value of the property and to create an additional form of income. You can then take this additional income and apply it directly to your mortgage to accelerate that payoff. I'm hearing some people are building sheds on their properties and renting them out as storage space. What a great idea. And if you have the space, you can charge people to leave RVs or boats on your property as another option. If it's the case that job raises or promotions don't come as often and you don't have the extra bedroom or space on your property to rent out, consider getting some sort of side hustle. And to be honest, it's something everyone should seriously consider if they expect to get ahead. It doesn't have to be forever either. My first job out of high school was at Home Depot, and there was a guy there that worked in my department named Bear. He only worked weekends because during the week he had his regular job. One day he put in his 2-week notice, and his explanation was that he worked long enough to hit the goal him and his wife had. You could do the same thing with your side hustle. It doesn't have to be forever. Luckily, it's never been easier in history to get a side hustle than it is right now. You can start a YouTube channel that can grow an audience and earn you ad revenue. There are websites like Etsy.com and Fiverr.com and Upwork.com that allow freelancers to get paid for a wide variety of jobs that you can do right in your own home in your extra time. If you don't have any skill sets for those websites, there's also Uber and Lyft that allow you to drive your car on your own schedule, and you can make a few extra $100 here and there. A side hustle doesn't have to be a full-time second job, nor does it have to ruin your life. That's not why you live in San Diego. The fact of the matter though, is that many of us piss away too much time on meaningless things like binge watching Love is Blind, playing Super Mario Kart, or taking extra naps. What I'm suggesting is to take some of that time and use it to getting out of the rat race. That's all. Now, before we get into the final strategies, we ought to put some things into context to make sure you got your priorities in the right order. Mortgage-free is a beautiful thing, but paying off your mortgage early should not be the top priority for everyone. There are some situations where other debt should be a higher priority. For example, mortgages are usually pretty low interest rates in comparison to credit cards. If you have other debts at higher interest rates than your mortgage, paying those off first should be your top priority. By paying off those high interest rate debts first, you limit how much others are making off of you and you free up those payment amounts eventually, which you can then apply to your mortgage as extra payments. Another situation is with regards to your 401k contributions if they are matched by your employer. Matching is an instant 100% return on your investment, not including the long-term compound gains. If your employer is matching, max out that opportunity first before you start focusing on paying down your mortgage. It's practically free money. I've also been asked about Roth IRA contributions. If you don't know, a Roth IRA is a retirement investment account that you put money into and get after retirement 100% tax-free on the gain. Now, I've been asked if it makes sense to max out your 401k contribution, then your Roth IRA, and then any extra goes towards your mortgage. And you can definitely do it that way if you want it. With regards to a Roth IRA, this is at your own discretion. The tax benefit after retirement is phenomenal. But keep in mind that the gain or the benefit of the Roth IRA isn't realized until after you retire. If you have the margin in your income to do both retirement accounts, then by all means, go for it. Maybe you don't max out your Roth IRA, rather, you put half in and then everything after that, you put towards your mortgage. It's totally up to you. At the time of this video, your yearly limit is $6,500 per person to a Roth IRA. If it's you and a partner, a husband or wife, that's $13,000 a year you can both put into your Roth IRAs, or you can dump that money into your mortgage. If you choose to apply that towards your $1 million mortgage loan rather than your Roth IRAs, you'd shave off 9 years and 8 months off your loan and save almost $515,000 in interest. That's only if you contribute the $13,000. Again, there is no right or wrong in this situation. Be sure to look into the math so you understand what the trade-offs are. Let's keep moving forward. Increasing your income is great and all, but the main culprit to many people's financial burdens are their spending habits. Make way for strategy number 6, managing your expenses, or more directly, cutting your expenses. Every dollar that you save is another dollar that you could put towards your principal and mitigate how much you pay to the banks in interest. At the same time, your quality of life doesn't have to adjust that much. You may be like so many others that are plagued with reoccurring monthly fees for services that are not really being used regularly. Here's an opportunity to ask yourself, do you have any monthly expenses that you can live without? Streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and such are small costs, but when you sign up for 4, 5, or 6 of them, that amount can add up. And let's be honest, how much TV are you really watching on all of them? A few more examples of expenses that can be reconsidered. Your coffee shop visits, eating out, food delivery, going out for drinks. These are all easy expenses that slip under the radar because we live in San Diego and we have great coffee shops, phenomenal restaurants to eat at or to have food delivered from, and killer sunsets that have to be enjoyed with either a cocktail or a Cali craft beer in hand. Now, I'm not advocating that you should eliminate all of these, but could you tone it back? Instead of eating out 2 times a week or more, could you cut it back to just once? Take a hard look at all of your monthly expenses and ask yourself, is it worth it over being mortgage free sooner than later? For clarity, by no means whatsoever have I suggest that you should eliminate every expense, become a hermit or a homebody, and do nothing until you pay off your mortgage. No way! San Diego's way too beautiful of a city to experience. Have fun. Enjoy going out and take the needed vacation from time to time. What I'm suggesting is to consider how much you're spending and if it is all necessary. An easy example, coffee at a coffee shop is a ridiculous cost to have multiple times a week. Could you start making your coffee at home and occasionally visit a coffee shop instead? If a coffee is $5 and you do that 5 times a week for 4 weeks a month, and let's say 44 weeks a year, that comes out to $4,400 a year spent on coffee shops, which could save you over 4 years off your mortgage and save you over $240,000 in interest. So are all those coffees worth paying an unnecessary $240,000 in interest? Food for thought, or rather coffee for thought. Next, strategy number 7 is one of my favorites, and it's called credit card hacking. Super anti-Dave Ramsey's, by the way. This is the equivalent of the Joker to Dave Ramsey's Batman. Credit card hacking is a way to maximize your credit card rewards in your favor. Many people are against the use of credit cards completely, and that is a phenomenal stance to take. If that is you, then you can skip to the next section in the timeline below. But consider this, if you're not taking advantage of credit card rewards programs, you're essentially paying for those people who are. There are cards out there that offer you up to 5% cash back on things like grocery stores, gas stations, and Amazon.com. And if you're already spending that money monthly, you might as well put it on your credit card and earn some cash back. It's the equivalent of saving money.
But Karl, how is cash back going to help me pay off my mortgage early?
Great question, and here's how. Every time you redeem points for cash, you will make an equivalent one-time payment to your mortgage for the exact same amount. And if you put all of your living expenses on a credit card, this could easily add up to a couple $1,000s of additional payments to your principal every single year, which you already know will save you hundreds of thousands of dollars on interest and pay off your mortgage a few years early. With this strategy, you have to be extremely disciplined to make sure that every single month the balance on your credit card is paid off entirely before it accumulates interest. Personally, every Friday, I have a standing appointment in the morning to go through all of my credit cards and pay them off. It's a bit excessive, but it's what works for me. There is one more strategy that I'm going to briefly share with you, but it needs its own full video. You can find that video in one of my playlists, or maybe I'll have it at the end of this one. Strategy Omega involves using a home equity line of credit, also known as a HELOC, to mitigate compound interest for simple interest. Essentially what you're doing is you're taking the HELOC and applying it to your principal. Then you will pay simple interest on the HELOC loan instead of compound interest on the amount that you would paid off. It's a rabbit hole of a discussion, so I'm going to leave it at that, and you can check out more details on it in its own video. That's it for my top strategies. Now, before we wrap this video up, you and I need to cover two last details that will make sure you stay focused and not veer off track. Detail number one. Many people wait to get to 20% down before they buy. This isn't exactly ideal, but we don't need to get into those numbers on that in this video. The point is, if you get into a home with less than 20% down, then great job. What you will notice is that in your payment, you will have an extra cost called PMI, also known as private mortgage insurance. Essentially, this is an insurance the lender requires you to pay in case you default and foreclose on your loan. Once you get down to 80% of your loan to value, your PMI should wash off in almost all cases. FHA loans are an exception to this. They have PMI for life. Even if you pay your loan down to less than 80%, you will still have PMI on an FHA loan. So be very careful of this. While on the other end of the spectrum, VA loans have no PMI, something to also be mindful of. If you have PMI, pay your loan down as fast as possible to the 80% loan to value point, where your PMI will wash off. The reason why is that this extra income is going towards a security that only benefits the bank and not you in the least bit. After you pay off your PMI, you can keep making the same payment amount as you did before. But now the PMI allocation can be used to pay down your principal. In this scenario, you can continue to make the previous PMI allocation to your principal, and that could be enough to make the impact needed to mitigate interest and finish your loan early, all the while not impacting the quality of your life significantly. Detail number two, whatever you do, try your absolute best to never refinance. Many lenders will approach you with a proposition that they can lower your interest rate and your payment. And in some scenarios, it can make sense, but in many, it does not. Keep in mind that when you get a mortgage, the loan is front loaded with interest, meaning that from the start, the majority of mortgage payment is towards interest, and it will roughly take 20 years before this flips and the majority of the payment starts going towards your principal. That's right, almost 20 years. So when you refi, you reset that clock and start all over paying a higher ratio of interest to the bank again. If the refinance opportunity presents itself, be mindful and do your math. If you get stuck, reach out to me and we can go through the math together to see if it makes sense. Don't get sucked into a lower interest rate and payment unless it's the case that you need the lower payment due to a change in your financial situation. That's it for this video. If you want to learn more about anything real estate here in San Diego, check out my playlist and subscribe to the channel. And if you're thinking of selling or buying, don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. I'd love to be able to help. Thanks so much for watching until the end. And as always, I'm Karl, your San Diego realtor. I'll see you in the next video.